All right, so thank you for those again who are joining us on Zoom and Facebook. We're ready for our live conversation with our Mindful Minute Conversation series. So what I'm going to do for those who are joining us is just to share our flyer so you can see who we are and what our series is about. Again, this is the Arkansas Association of Black Psychology Professionals. So please share this live as you're coming on Facebook. Please share with those so people on your timeline and others in your network can see what we're talking about with this Mindful Minute Conversation series. So with this series, we have been focusing on promoting the emotional wellness of the Black community through engaging and educational content. We will provide practical tips, tools, and techniques for navigating the stress of COVID-19, racism, relationships, and other topics that are relevant to the Black community. So we've been doing this for several months now, particularly as we've been dealing with this collective trauma of COVID-19 and this pandemic. And we've been addressing a range of topics. And so today, our topic is navigating the dual pandemics of racism and COVID-19 through the arts. And our speaker today is Anita Thomas, and the moderator is Garbo Hearne. And what I want to do, my name is Dr. Kyla Holmes, and I am the Vice President of the Arkansas Association of Black Psychology Professionals. But what I want to do right now is just to introduce our moderator. Garbo Hearne is the Director of Pyramid Art, Books, and Custom Framing, Hearne Fine Art, in the historic Dunbar neighborhood in Little Rock, Arkansas. Since 1988, her business has focused on African American culture through art and literature. In 2004, Hearne earned her certificate for appraisal studies in fine and decorative arts from New York University. In 2014, she was accepted as a certified member of the Appraisers Association of America with a specialization in African American fine art. Hearne is on the board of directors of the Mid-America Arts Alliance, Dunbar Historic Neighborhood Association, and current chair of Arkansans for the Arts. She is a member of the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Beta Pi Omega chapter. Hearne is married to Dr. Archie Hearne III, and they have 4 children. Her hobbies include reading, collecting art, juicing, and traveling. She attends New Millennium Church in Little Rock, Arkansas. So I would like to, at this point, turn it over to Garbo Hearne and Anita Thomas. Thank you all so much for doing this live. We look forward to this wonderful conversation. And again, we do have people who are with us on Zoom and on Facebook. For those of you all who are on Zoom, I'm just going to stop your videos. I'm just going to focus. I appreciate you all's kind of understanding that to turn off the videos and turn off your mic so we can be focused on the conversation between Garbo and Anita. So I'm just going to turn it over to you all. Welcome. Thank you again.
Thank you, Kyla.
Thank you, Dr. Holmes, and for that introduction. And I'd like to begin by thanking Dr. Griffin and the Arkansas Association of Black Psychology Professionals for inviting me to share in this month's Mindful Minutes, because for me, spirituality and the arts are the basis of humanity. And the fact that you feel that the arts are an important impact on society says a lot, because oftentimes the arts are taken for granted or not even noted in any conversation. So thank you for giving the arts and the artists this type of recognition. When I was given the opportunity to help put this program together, the one person that came to mind was Anita Thomas. And Anita resides in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which is a social justice hotspot in America. And she is the essence of a true creative in that she is a children's author. She is a professional artist, practicing artist, and she's also written 2 art books. So in the essence of what we're talking about today, I think she embodies that spirit. So that's why we have one guest today. In the essence of time, Anita has created a presentation. And after that, she and I will talk a bit, but we will definitely have time for questions, and Dr. Holmes is going to watch the chat box. So at any time throughout the presentation, if you have a question, put it in the chat box or Facebook Live. I'm not sure the term for all that, but Dr. Holmes is going to handle that. And with no further ado, I present Anita Thomas.
Thank you, Garbo, and thank you for the invitation to be a part of this discussion. This conversation has been on my mind since the pandemic started, and I was wondering how I could be vocal about it. So when we had a discussion about this topic and this project came to you and you introduced it to me, I was overwhelmed and overjoyed. I've known you since 2010, and I've enjoyed this journey, this spiritual journey with you ever since. So without any further comments, I'm gonna introduce my presentation. So I'd like to invite our guests to take a mental trip with me as I share with you how I coped in life and through this dual pandemic of racism and COVID-19. I'm Anita Thomas, and I'm going to introduce you to who I am as an artist, a mother, and an author. The artist. I always knew I was an artist. It was an energy that seemed to show up in everything I did and saw. It was a source of extreme happiness, even in my saddest hours. Art to me is everything. It's a connection to my spirit. Art is connected to my emotions in every way. Art was that invisible parent for me. Discovering me. When my mother passed away, I didn't know who I was. I knew I was a daughter because that was the role that I was born into, but who am I without the role model and without that inspirational figure to look up to? I had to become my own parent. I had to be my own source of inspiration. So I called on art.
Miss Anita, I don't know if this is Dr. Holmes. We're not seeing your screen. If you want to share your screen, we're not seeing it. Just want to let you know.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries.
Is it sharing? Okay, let's go.
Okay, yes, it is now. Thank you.
Okay, can we take it from the top?
Yeah, just however you want to do it. You can pick up where you left off, however you need to do it.
Okay, I'd like to invite you on this mental journey with me as I share with you how I coped in life and with during this dual pandemic of racism and COVID. I'm Anita Thomas, and I'm going to introduce you to who I am as an artist, a mother, and an author. The artist. I always knew I was an artist. It is an energy that seemed to show up in everything I did and saw. It was a source of extreme happiness, even in my saddest hours. Art is everything to me. Art became that invisible parent. Art is linked to my emotions in every way. Discovering me. When my mother passed away, I didn't know who I was. You see, I knew I was a daughter because I was born into that role, but who am I without that role model? Who am I without that inspirational spirit? So I called on art. See, with death and grief was new to me. I didn't want to paint. Paint wasn't enough for me. I didn't want to draw. Drawing wasn't enough for me. I needed something new, something that I can grow with. So I came across Screen Mesh in college. Screen Mesh allowed me to explore my spirit. I started with faces and figures. It allowed me to tap into my soul. It allowed me to explore what made me happy. When my stepfather passed away, I was filled, overwhelmed with a lot of unresolved emotions, a lot of sadness. My father was absent. My stepfather, although he was present, he was absent emotionally. So all of those emotions came to me, they flooded to me when he passed away. And all of those emotions actually went to this piece. The mother. I entered motherhood in 2014 with much caution. I wanted my child to inherit all of my love with none of the grief, the misery, the regret, and anger attached to my past. Defining me. When I had Alana, it was important for me to assess my emotions, assess what I felt inside. I wanted to make sure that I cleared out all of that emotional clutter in order to make room and make space for this new spirit in my life. This was the first collection of artwork, or the first series I did on my new journey with my daughter. Love for culture. As a mother, I loved being able to build this new relationship with my daughter. During 2014, 2016, I was filled with hope, filled with inspiration. And what I did with that energy was start building a collection of a library for my daughter, a library of ancestry, a library of our history, a library that included what we have contributed to our culture, what we have contributed as a culture to society, trailblazers, all the books that you could think of that would help you be inspired in life. I started finding in kid collections for her to help her build her confidence early. This collection was a part of that. One, I started going into the direction of making sure that my art represented us in professional fields, not only music or the familiar, making sure that she can explore, see herself in a medical field. Time to speak out. Around this period, the world just started getting louder with ignorance and louder with just injustices. And I started feeling that inside. My spirit was restless. What did I do with this restless energy? I turned to art. One of the things that I did when I explored screen was try to dump my grief into things that made me happy. What things made me happy was classical music, jazz music, dance. So I resorted back to that during this time, but the one element that I had to add was things that inspired and empowered me about my culture. During this time, with this restless spirit, I was also anxious to learn more about my lineage. Without a stepfather and father not in the picture, and without my mother, you're disconnected from the patriarch and the matriarch in your family, and there was no traditions passed down. So I had to I started with my life with her to build traditions. So in order for me to build traditions with her, I needed to learn more about myself. So I started exploring that, and that started trickling down into my artwork. Again, the world was in chaos, and it started getting louder and louder, and my restless spirit wanted to turn to art, but something that was tactile wasn't enough for me. It took too long to get out my aggression and to get out what I was feeling. So I turned to poetry. I love to write. So that poetry actually turned into artwork, but these three pieces were poems first. And I'm gonna read one of them to you. One is called When the Green and Yellow Dust Settles. When the green and yellow dust settles and the need to be seen takes a back seat to the need to do better. And fear is no longer the driving force of marketing and power. And those with green no longer devour the dignity of those without. And accessibility is no longer a ticket for sale, and morality prevails. When the green and yellow dust settles and your color no longer determines your worth. And beauty is not determined by girth, and pride is held again as a badge of honor, not a target for hate. And humanity is restored, not to a perfect state, but to a state where we can coexist without fearing those we do not know. Then we will be able to take a step back, take a deep breath, and look into the eyes of our children and their children and say, take this broom, keep this broom, for our burdens and fears, hopes and dreams now lie with you. This collection was inspired again as from being a mother. I felt in my heart for the children of the world that, you know, are going through this emotionally with racism and ignorance, dealing with it in their own little social circles, and don't know how to interpret that to their parents. With that on my mind, I had this series in mind to be hung in a child's room. Collection of inspirational thoughts, a collection of things that you can dream that'll help them dream. The author. I never planned to become an author. My passions were rooted in creating with my hands. I never imagined that being a mother could be a passion. Gazing upon my own creation, I saw a child as art in motion. I wanted to capture every moment. It was then I realized writing also allows me to create with my hands, but with a more personal and immediate connection to my spirit and a new spirit born from me. It was then I took on the identity, A.T. Burwell, the author. It was important to me to, I guess my spirit always craves more of me and more in this life. And I constantly ask the question, who am I and what is my life about? I think to me, it's important for me to leave behind footprints that my future generation can learn from, or humanity can learn from. So that's why I created the series of books, to keep to keep a tangible record of my life experiences. Hey, I'm a Big Girl Now is a record of her life as it unfolds. When Mesh Life Evolves is a record of my evolution of work. It's a journal. Journey of a Masterpiece, the interlocking of my life with hers. That's what Journey of a Masterpiece is. It's a connection of, I have a couple of stories of my grandmother in there, what I could remember, my life with my mother, and it blends straight to what I've learned as an artist. And then it goes straight into how my teachings or my knowledge of art is incorporated in me raising Alana. So that's what Journey of a Masterpiece is about, the evolution of me. Life in Quarantine. Life in Quarantine started out in depression and anxiety, but that's what's expected. I mean, I'm used to making a plan based off of informed decisions and a recollection of something that I've done before. But in quarantine, we had to, they weren't subtle plans, they were contingency plans based off of uncertainties. A mother is a child's first teacher. You must first be the student to be an effective teacher. When my daughter was born, I was scared to death because how do you connect with a person, a little being that can't communicate to you what they like or dislike? So to me, I felt as though I was being a student. I had to learn what she was trying to explain to me without the words. And even to this day, I'm still her student. Every day, every year she's a new person. Every year, I'm basically taking a new class. What do you do with the stress while you're home and you kind of feel isolated and you can't get everything that you need to give to your child? I didn't want to put that stress on her. She would feel my stress, and the only way I couldn't relay that stress to her is to reduce the pressure. To reduce the pressure, I had to turn my chaotic, upside down world into something of order. That's when I started creating an agenda, a daily agenda that we can follow that incorporated a balance of work and play for both of us. While I'm working remote, she knows that she can do one of her activities. It's important for me to celebrate all of her accomplishments. It's important for her to recognize when it is an accomplishment. In these pictures, you see that she had a virtual graduation from home, and she's continuing with her karate as she did before the pandemic. Art is my safe house. It is a mental place where my spirit can roam free. Having this mental place keeps my sanity grounded. During this pandemic, I make it a point to stay connected to the art community. Why? Art, again, is my safe place. It's my place of tranquility. So to stay connected to the art community keeps me calm. When an organization reached out to me, one of my connections, to ask me to do 3 commissioned pieces for an exhibit on the Underground Railroad, I was glad to participate. It was another way that I could dump my emotions into artwork. It was another way for me to escape the current life. Art allows you to escape. Following that invitation to create a collection of commissions, I was invited to participate in a group exhibit called Phenomenal Woman. I loved participating in it, again, because I got to take out my anxiety and put it into artwork. During my journey in life as an artist, I always assess myself every year just to see where I am emotionally and to see where I am artistically. I came up with this words on passion and what passion means to me. It is the fire in your veins. It will start from your head until it reaches your extremities. It will escape any way it can. It will explode in the form of creativity, from pencil to paintbrush, from sport to speech. It will use any creative instrument that will allow it to freely express a mood. It is the source of life. Sometimes you can't define it. Sometimes you can't explain it. And trying to change it to fit others' comfort level is maddening, so you don't. It is more satisfied and satisfying when it is expressed from the heart of the true self. It will reveal itself in the way you speak, the way you think, the way you dress, in your actions. You are an energy that is felt. You are a vessel. You were chosen to be a vessel. You become what you breathe, what you admit. You become it, and it can exist beyond you. It is art, and thou art the artist. Thank you.
So Anita, that was very, very powerful. You were very generous in sharing your personal life with us and how your creative gift has helped you throughout this difficult time. Isolation is a term that I hear quite a bit on the news and conversation with friends. So tell me, what is isolation done for you?
Isolation was definitely different. You know, you're in a society where you fall in line. You have it's like Groundhog's Day. You wake up in the morning and you just keep going. You do your same routine daily. And when this pandemic hit, it hit everyone. You could not do your same routine. That was weird for me. The fact that I could not escape my home life and go to my work environment or go to a friend's house to escape. You know, all of those are ways that you escape to enter another mental place. And when you're in the house, all of that ceases to exist. Everything is, that's your world. And that was different for me, to try to adjust to that. One of the things that I had to do is make sure that I tell everybody in my house, I'm shutting down. I'm shutting down the computer, the phone. I'm just going to the room and shutting my door, and that will have to be my escape. So that's how I handled it. If I wasn't escaping in artwork, sometimes I just needed to be in darkness, away from digital devices.
Okay, so your daughter, you know, she was taken out of her school environment. She's being homeschooled. How have you noticed the change in her, the way she deals? Tell me.
She's a strong little spirit, I tell you. She handled this change a lot better than I thought she would. She likes being home with mom. I make sure as part of the routine that I make sure that she has activities that she normally does. You know, if she was just doing everything with me and not having, you know, a virtual chat with her friends or a phone call with her friends, I think it would be difficult. And the other thing I made sure that I did is develop a collection of books on viruses and COVID. And so she has plenty of material that once she leaves this environment, she still knows what to do, even though she's not active in her social groups.
So what about your husband? How has this affected your home life?
Now, he's one of the essential workers, so he has to go out and still work. Luckily, he doesn't have to come in contact with people too much, which was a fear for me. But you know, he's handling, and I make sure that we sit down and connect to make sure mentally that he's good.
Okay, so for me, literature and art are documentations of memories, and as it equates to generational wealth. What do you think about that statement? What does that mean to you?
Literature
and art and generational wealth for the future, for the next generation.
I think it's very important. One thing that I learned from my mother's passing is that I felt like I had to start over without any type of guide, you know. And what I mean by that is it's important for me to make sure I share with my daughter some type of foundation, how to handle money, how to time manage. You know, I give her a lot of stuff. And these are like little fundamental basics in order to build life. These are essentials in order for her to be a better adult. You know, wealth, learning money. I taught that early to her. 3 years old, 4 years old, I'm teaching her how to count. I give her, you know, a stack of real money, not play money. I give her a stack of real money to count out for me, and I'll take from it. I'll tell her, we'll make it into a game. I'll have her close her eyes. After she counted it already, I'll take some 5s and some 10s and some 1s, and I say, how much did I take away? And she says, and I said, yes, you have to count it all over, and then you have to tell me what I took away. Why do I do that? I say, she said, why do I have to do that? I say, Lano, there's going to be a time that you go out into the world, and I do not want you to be ripped off or gypped because you don't know how to count. So trust me, this will be effective for you later. And she does it to me. Mom, no, that was $6 instead of, and I love it. I love that the teachings come back at me, it's expected. So I know that it's effective.
Okay. And when I say generational wealth, I'm not necessarily talking about money. I'm talking about the history that you are creating with your artwork, the memories you're creating with her. How will that equate in her existence in the future?
I think that all ties into just legacy. I write all of that in the books, the lessons that I've learned, in hopes that it gets passed down to her, something tangible that she can hold on to, that a guide for her to, build off of. To me, that contributes to a legacy, something that I did not have. I feel as though when you're an adult, you should have a stepping stone of things to do when you're in situations. And I found myself, losing her when I was 23, that, that you're starting, there's a lot of stuff that you didn't have to go through if you had the knowledge in advance. So that's what I try to compensate, maybe overcompensate sometimes, to make sure that she has, or that she's aware of it, so that when she encounters something, it's not starting from scratch. You don't have to always learn from the mistake of not being aware.
Okay, so racism and social injustice has been a part of our world since the beginning. How is it different in 2020 for you?
It was a little, definitely stressful and nerve-wracking. It's like the jacket was pulled off and everybody was free to say what was on their mind, and they didn't just smile and just walk away. It was more, everything was blatant. And, not only for me, but for my child. I mean, I remember her going to a birthday party where she was the only, brown there. And the kids were at this long table and nobody wanted to sit next to her. And I didn't know how that would affect her, but she looked at me and she put her thumbs up and she was like, I'm okay, because we read stories of hurt feelings of children, going through this. So it was weird how she just looked at me and she was like, I'm okay. But she shouldn't. I don't like her experience and stuff like that. So those are the type of things that, in 2020 that, you have to deal with prior to the pandemic. And I just make sure that I teach her not to take it personal.
Okay, so being in a hotspot, Philadelphia is identified on the news as a real hotspot in America. How have you dealt with that?
I stay in my little bubble. I don't go far. I get deliveries. I get groceries delivered. My husband might shop, but I'm very particular about where he goes, or collecting the mail. All of that is a lot more of a process than it was before. The other thing is, being in the hotspot of, Philadelphia, the thing that I get very concerned with is people walking around hearing the news, however, they still don't wear a mask. That concerns me, but like I said, I just stay in my bubble. I escape through books, escape through art, escape just by being with my child and my family.
Okay, so When I think of the pandemic and back to isolation, has this made you a better artist? Are you using your time wisely? Do you think your work creatively is improving because you have more time?
Definitely, definitely. I mean, honestly, everybody's life should improve being in this situation, not not the negative aspects of it, but the fact of being able to actually be with oneself and start to think and plan new things and learn new things, because now you're not forced to rush everywhere. You're forced to stay in place. That should make somebody want to think about their future. I mean, this pandemic forces you to think about your future because you don't know what's going to happen day to day. So that's one of the things that it's made me do. It's made me think even more about my future, my family's future, my daughter's future. It makes me plan even hard. Now, I was already, type A personality planning, but now everything is in a book, everything is a copy, and the other thing that it made me do is explore. I mean, my daughter and I are practicing the piano together, something that I always wanted to learn. So this was my time to turn a bad situation into a new situation and explore that journey with her, and I'm enjoying myself.
Okay, so the arts, as we say, are the basis of humanity. So everybody on this call, everybody watching our conversation has a creative talent. How would you advise them to get in touch with it? Because you obviously have gotten in touch with all of your creative spirit based on all the things you've shared. How would you get people to figure it out?
I think it's important to meditate a little. It's important for you to not be around people and to be with yourself. Be happy with yourself. A lot of people don't like themselves, but it's a time. It's okay not to like yourself. It's a time where you can figure out why. Figure out what you want to do. Art is definitely a way that you can tap into that spiritual being, because I believe that this is not all we are. This is just a vehicle that we travel through life. This is just our car, but the spirit is encased within. The spirit is so much bigger than this shell that we live in. And I write that in my book. And it's time for people to explore that. Don't take this situation as such a negative. Take it as a moment of reflection and to internalize what you want to do with that creative side, because that creative side will allow you to escape your worries.
Okay. So we've been talking quite a bit. So now it's time for our listening audience to chime in. I'm sure they have some questions. Dr. Holmes, can you help us out? Are there any questions from the audience?
Yes, we do have some questions to address. First, I just want to just say thank you both. Anita, that was just an amazing, just like Garbo said, a very powerful presentation. And I like your language, Garbo, that you said about just Anita being so generous with just sharing her inner world, her journey, her experiences, and showing how the arts really played a very key role in your journey and still does. So I think one of the things I think you do such a great job, Anita. This is just so great of how you just captured your journey. You captured your experiences, and then how you used art to almost, and you can tell me if I'm explaining this right or capturing this for you, but like capturing your experiences with grief and just life's challenges through art, and talking about how, yeah. And I guess somebody, you may have already said this, but I think this could help to give the audience some context. This was just one of the questions. And again, you might have said this, so forgive me if you did, but how old were you, if you don't mind sharing, when your mom passed?
23.
23.
So I was still in college. I was a junior in college, and she passed during that period. So I had to make arrangements to get myself through college, because one of her dying words was, "You get your education." And for her to, you know, be going through whatever she needed to go through and deal with her cancer, I didn't learn about her cancer until late in life. So for her to hold that from me means that she didn't want that to be on the forefront of my mind. I keep that idea in the back of my head as I'm raising her.
Oh, that's beautiful. I was going to ask you kind of how that continues to inform your journey. So it informs your journey as an artist and as a mother.
Yeah, it's a big giant book. I tie everything, every little page in is important, whether it's negative or positive. All those pages connect to your life story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you for sharing that. Would you say for you that the arts was one of the primary ways that kind of helped you to process and cope with like grief and life challenges? Would you say like art is like up there?
Art is up there. Art, you can say art is the thing, because through art, I'm able to interpret what I'm feeling through the poems. I'm able to work out my aggression, working with the screen. I'm distracted from whatever I'm feeling because my spirit says, get it out creatively, get it out creatively. So if I don't feel like going to the screen, I'm doing something creative. I'm doing, you know, trying to create a new meal or, you know, something creative, because that's what it's there for.
Right, right. That's beautiful. So it's like this creative kind of outlet allows you to like process all of that. And I like how you connected with, for you, spirituality. So if you could just say a little more about that, like how you feel like it connects with, it sounds like who you feel like you really are, like we are spirit. We're not body.
I believe we're spirit. I teach my daughter, she says, I tell my daughter she's very smart. And she said, why am I smart, Ma? I said, because you were born smart. I said, you were born a star first. You were a star in the sky, and we all go back to the sky after we're gone. So I say, you were a star in the sky. And when I decided to have a kid, I told her, I put it in technical terms. I said, it was like an iPad, Mom, because this is the world that she lives in. So I said it was like an iPad. And when you got the ring that parents wanted to have a kid, all the kids' spirits up in the world went through their iPad and said, no, 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 that's the one. When you picked us, your spirit came down to my belly, and then you were born, and that was your earth body. But I said, your light is your spirit, and that's within you. And that's what she believes to this day. So she told me, I have to nurture my spirit. Yes, you have to nurture your spirit.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Secondary, this is your vehicle. Your spirit is here.
Right. That's amazing. How old is she?
She's 6.
6 years old. So that's amazing. Already giving her true identity. That's great. That's awesome. Yeah, I just like how you incorporate that. Speaking of children, I like the question that Garbo asked about like how to help people, or what advice you would give to people to get in touch with their artistic self. What advice would you give to parents and caregivers to help their children connect with that part of themselves, and so children know to start to nurture that, particularly if that's a part of their makeup already?
I would say to parents, be the student. Allow yourself to be the student, because your child is not yours. Your child is somebody you're raising, but the child belongs to the world once you bring it in. So allow your child to speak. Allow your child to participate. My child participates in my artwork. Allow your child to know what you're doing. Allow your child to understand what passion means. What does work ethic mean? You know, my daughter goes around the house. I gave her a pair of frames that I knocked out the glass because she wants to be mommy. So she walks around with frames.
Oh, wow.
She has her little iPad, and she'll act like that she's typing on the computer. She's learning a routine. She's learning what adults do. That's what they do. That's what their playtime is about. So I would express to parents, engage in playtime. Incorporate the lessons into the playtime. Make it a challenge. If you're cooking, say, oh my goodness, I just created a fire. What do I do? Or, oh my goodness, I just dropped saw somewhere, what do I do? Allow the child to solve a problem as
Yeah.
adult in playtime. I do it all the time, and I feel as though it'll make a much more engaging time with the parents. Because it's enlightening watching the child figure out stuff.
Right.
Incorporate that into the play. Play is not just for the child. Play is for you too.
Yeah, I like that. I like that, Anita. That's so great because I think, as you mentioned, that as families, a lot of families are spending a lot more time together, sheltering in place. And so these are wonderful ways to create those memories and to have that time together and strengthen the bonds and teaching them skills at the same time. Because as mental health professionals, one thing that we know is that, even in a time of adversity, this collective trauma that we're in, right? That things happen in life. Adversity kind of comes in life, but if people have the skills, the thinking skills, the problem solving skills to know how to navigate it, that's what this series is about, right? How to navigate these difficult times. So I like how you said that the parents can create fun play type opportunities to teach their child thinking skills, give their child identity, and it helped them with problem solving so that when they come upon tough times, they know how to kind of navigate it because the parents have been helping them for a while.
I gotta tell you something. I got a story for that. My daughter this summer, I give her a collection of books on COVID. They dress in like superhero books. You're wearing your mask, it's a superhero costume. So there's books out there that I give her that we read at nighttime and during the day. One day she came to me and she said, "Mama, I want to play a COVID game." And I said, "What's a COVID game?" She said, "I want to play a COVID playtime." And I said, "Okay." I said, "What do I have to do?" This is me asking her, what do I need to do to make her playtime happen? She said, "We need to take some paper and make some viruses with faces, and I'm gonna go upstairs and get my cape, and you're gonna make these viruses talk, and I'm gonna help you figure out how to get rid of them." And I said, that was beautiful. I allowed her to come up with a game to make this time useful, but to allow her to be a superhero, because that's what she wanted to do. She said, "I want to help people, Mom, and I can't help anybody during this situation. I'm too young." I said, "No," I said, "You're not too young. You're helping me. You're helping me by allowing me to be in your space,
right?
Which you experienced as a kid."
I think that that's great and gave her a great way to even process that, to process all of what she was thinking and feeling in her creative way of play. I think that's beautiful. Just as we're talking about family, somebody did have a question. So you've been talking about your identity as mother and kind of what you do in that regard. And so somebody had a question about marriage. So the question is, how has your marriage influenced your artwork?
Marriage influence in artwork. Well, honestly, he's such a strong support. I mean, he's probably on the call right now. He's on the call too. But it's been a way for him to tap into his creative side, which is I beautiful. He likes music. I love music. He's a DJ on the side, and he'll see me creating all the summer. When he saw me creating these pieces, I would wonder why he rushed downstairs and disappear. And it was him. He wanted to create music because he got inspired. This during marriage, we're actually, I make it a point every day to have family time. That's part of one of the things that I do in our routine is make sure that we don't just escape into digital devices. We have to have playtime. I mean, not playtime, but we have to schedule. So it's a part of a routine. We schedule family time. And then that family time, as a group, even with Lana, we'll play Scrabble, we'll play, Pictionary, and sometimes we'll watch a movie, but sometimes we'll escape any TV or digital device just to go back to the basics and play a board game. That's helped my marriage. That's helped the family unit to get away from the stress. You have to find those ways of escaping.
Yeah.
I see a question in the chat box about one of your pieces, the Runaway Slave series. And I don't know if you can go back to that. Can you talk about the thought process behind that series?
Yeah. So when I was approached with the idea, and they were talking about, oh, we're interested in seeing you do some pieces that that contribute to the story of the positive aspects that came out of slavery. Some the fact of slaves escaping and creating who we are. And I that's what made me attracted to creating those pieces, because it wasn't the negative aspect. It wasn't about, okay, this person's chained down with scars on their face and looking sad, and because that's already on your head. You're already downed about that. But to have the runaway slave in a color garb where she's in the world and she escapes, she allowed that fear not to control her, and so that she can find hope, to a new light. That made a connection to me, because I felt like, even though I'm not a slave, you feel trapped in your house, and you got, powers that be that are preaching negativity and hate, and you feel just trapped mentally, so to connect to something hopeful. That's the story that I was pulling out of that. And then the other piece where it was two to freedom or something like that, about the two slaves, which I found a funny story, and I had to do the piece on that. But the story was, the two slaves were next to the ship, and they were like, they had to guard it while the person that runs the ship escapes to either talk to the friend or to get a drink or whatever. So when he went to go do that, they planned and plotted to jump on the ship to help everybody else escape on a slave ship. And I thought that was another hopeful and inspiring story. But the thing about that one is, since I connected to it and I was exploring my ancestry, I made sure that I marked in the hand, just for a future generation, if not, I'm no longer around, GHT. And GHT was General Henry Thomas. See, I'm on this journey, this mental journey of trying to find out what's the source of my last name, and I put General Henry Thomas, or GHT, just a cue for me to make sure that I take care of that, trying to figure out what the source of my last name is. So those are the connected stories to that. I answered the question.
Thank you. So we have a question from Victoria. It says, establishing a personal routine is difficult. So I can only imagine establishing a family routine. How did you build discipline to stick to your routine, especially as an artist?
I already had like a little bit that I was writing about for my daughter, because I'm not pleased with the educational system. And I remember when I got out of school, and the older I got, the more I felt the information I didn't receive, a lot of stuff I didn't learn about until later in life. And I said, I didn't want that to happen to my daughter. So that caused me to make sure that I make a routine, but incorporating, making a plan. I do that in my artistic hour, which is 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. Not saying that everybody else should do it, but I mean, you got to realize you're in this COVID world where you're in the house. This is time. You have time. I know people say that they don't have time, and I'm not talking about anybody in the room, but people say that don't have time, but you make time for things that you want to do. You make time for the people that you love. You find the time somewhere. So if it's important to you to create a structure to reduce that chaos back to order, then you'll find the time to do it. I was writing my book 3 o'clock in the morning with Alana laying on my lap. That's because it was something that I felt I needed to do. And that's when I planned. I planned early in the morning to create, because I knew that would be, how would that benefit me? Would it make me less stressful? Yes. So it was a must. It was a no-brainer. I had to do it.
Well, thank you. It is 7:24, and if you want to see Anita's work or look at Anita's books or take some of Anita's work home, you can always come to Hearne Fine Art or Pyramid Art Books and Custom Framing. We're located in the Dunbar historic neighborhood at 1001 Wright Avenue. I had to get my commercial in, Dr. Holmes.
Of course, of course.
At any rate,
Absolutely.
again, I'd like to thank the Arkansas Association of Black Psychology Professionals for sharing and understanding the impact and the importance of the arts and inviting us to share our stories with you. And I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Holmes. I'm sure she has some announcements for next month. And I'd like to thank you, Anita, for being the perfect presenter, the perfect artist. We really appreciate you sharing your time and your story.
Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you to both of you. This was just, again, amazing information. So as we are wrapping up, Anita, if you don't mind letting our listening audience know, because I know other people will come back and watch the replay later as well, but if you could let people know where they could find out more about you, in addition to at Hearne Fine Art, but other places. I don't know if people can follow you on social media or.
You could,
yeah.
You could definitely follow me on social media. I stay more on Facebook than I do on Instagram, but I am on Instagram also. You're easier finding me on Facebook if you want a response or you want to find out what the most up-to-date information about me is. You can definitely visit my website, www.anitathomasstudio.com. Yeah. And on there, it will also have, the background to my, a little brief of my books and some other works. And definitely reach out to Hearne Fine Art where you can find some artwork over there.
Okay, awesome. So that was Anita Thomas Studio, Anita ANYTA.
ANYTA.
That's right, studio.com. Was it studio or studios? Studio?
AnitaThomasStudios.com.
Studios.com. And how about on Facebook? What's your name on Facebook?
A studios is a studio. Now you got me questioning. Is a studio?
Okay.
Anita, .Thomas at Facebook. You can find me on Facebook.
Okay, on Facebook there.
Right in my banner, so you'll know it's me.
Okay, awesome, awesome, awesome. And Garbo, I'm glad that you gave information because I was going to ask too. So if you could let people know, if you don't mind saying that one more time, where people can learn about you and what's at your gallery. And if you don't mind, even just saying a little bit more about what you offer at your gallery and how people can learn more.
Well, Pyramid Art Books and Custom Framing and Hearne Fine Art, we've been around since 1988, and we work with local, regional, national, and international artists and authors, and we provide them a platform to share their experiences. So you can go to our website at hearnefineart.com or our book website at pyramid88.com. So either way, you're going to find some exceptional people who are sharing Black culture and our story at the highest level. So thank you for this opportunity, and the next time, call us again.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And so again, thank you all for being here. And just to let our listeners know, just to reiterate, this is a part of our Mindful Minute Conversation Series, the Arkansas Association of Black Psychology Professionals. We've been doing this for several months now, having this conversation about how to navigate during the dual pandemics of racism and COVID-19, and talking about issues that are pertinent to the Black community. So for the most part, the first Monday of every month, we do some type of live interview like this to just bring you relevant information. In January, well, for the rest of December, we're going to have just information about how to have non-traditional holiday celebrations during this time. We know that not everybody is celebrating it in the same way that they did with their traditional routines and customs. And so we just want to put out just different ways that other families are celebrating during the holidays. So we'll just have some pre-recorded or even some pop-up videos with some type of content that we'll release throughout the rest of this month regarding non-traditional holiday celebrations. And as we go into January, we would like to continue this conversation where we'll talk about other important tips and strategies for entering into 2021 and continuing to navigate this pandemic. we'll probably talk about ways to support teachers and families and students during this time, because we know that they are dealing with a lot of stress as well, and just continue conversations about navigating racism during this time. So please stay tuned. Look for our posts that we'll have every Monday with new content. We will also have this information, this live interview that we did today, and other pre-recorded videos released on our YouTube page as well. So please look at the Arkansas Association of Black Psychology Professionals YouTube page, and also our Facebook page for continued conversation and continued content regarding navigating these dual pandemics. Thank you for everyone that joined us live on Facebook and also in Zoom. Everybody enjoy the rest of your evening.